Sales are simple, right? Make the calls, close the deal, rinse, repeat. What if I told you the real magic lies in what you're not doing? In this episode, we're flipping the script on everything you thought you knew about growth, business, personal, and everything in between. Ever wonder how a mindset shift from chasing money to chasing joy could skyrocket your success? Or why strategies like door knocking and AI aren't just old school or futuristic, they're game changers when done right. We're answering the questions you didn't even know you needed to ask. Buckle up. It's time to rethink your playbook. All right, Bo, let's get started with the first question of this week's episode, my man.
All right. The first question says, what do you do with your team to set yourself up for a new year? And is it too late for me to do so?
Well, definitely not too late. It's never too late if you haven't gotten around to it maybe by the end of the calendar year. You definitely want to start getting your team together in the start of the year and do some brainstorming. And so what I've done with in both of my organizations, and I like to think that we quasi have a third organization, which is kind of like my content team. All the guys, Bo and Clyde and Wei and Alex. But in terms of my real estate team, what we did right at the start of the year was sit down and understand, first and foremost, that this coming year of 2025, in real estate, I don't care where you are, specifically in North America, it's gonna be tougher than it was in 2024. Why? Well, there's a lot more uncertainty. You got a new president coming in the States. You have a new election that's gonna be happening here in Canada. And when those things happen, those major events happen, it's a lot of uncertainty in the marketplace. People are like, what's gonna be some of the new rules and regulations? What's gonna happen with interest rates? What's gonna happen with affordability? And when there's uncertainty, what people tend to do is do nothing, which is understandable. Now, as realtors, that is the space for opportunity for your business, because there's also other real estate agents that are just going to put their feet up and do nothing. And so I sat down with my team and first and foremost, let them know that we are going to have to work 3 times as hard, make 3 times more phone calls, put out 3 more times of content on social media. We're going to need to do 3 more times the events, like for real, to do the same amount of money that we made last year. Now, I don't like that. Neither did my team, but the alternative kind of sucks. The alternative being that we could just stop doing this. And so what we did is we spent time on, number one, what is it exactly that we want to accomplish in 2025? Well, our numbers are that we wanted to do X amount of deals. Then from the X amount of deals, we know how many contacts we need to make. How many times do we need to reach out to people via a phone call, an email, and an event? We got those numbers and we said, how can we also, and this is where the brainstorming happened, how can we also do this slightly different? What are some different topics that we can speak about? What are people wanting to hear? What are some different scripts? And we came up with that. Took us about literally 10 to 12 days of 3-4 hours a day, because we still have other organizations and we also have clients on the go. And so we couldn't spend 12 hours a day because we do have business to take care of. And so after about those 10 to 12 days, we now have our plan, and now it's time to execute. And so sitting down with the team is of utmost importance to make sure that we're all on the same page. Because if you have team members that are not on the same page as you got to figure that out as quickly as possible so you can start to make some changes. Those changes may include replacing the team members. It may just include, what you might have to do is change a role. We've changed roles this year. Myself and my business partner in the real estate company, we're actually switching roles. I've been more front-facing with the clients and figuring out the events. He's going to handle that. I'm going to kind of do the stuff that he was doing last year, which was more agent development on our team of 45. And then we have a new funnel that we came out with as well. Stay tuned. I'm going to be making more announcements of that as well. A lot of real estate agents are going to love it, specifically the local ones. And you're going to be able to actually better your business because of this, in my opinion. And so we had to make some role changes. Why? Because some of my team members weren't happy with what they were doing. They wanted a bigger challenge, which is great. They want to be with us more and still be with us, but they just want to do something different. And so it's never too late. If you haven't done it yet, even if you're in the month of February, get to it though. You don't want to be sitting in June and July and then trying to get on the horse. The toughest thing in sales, in my opinion, is when you have momentum and you fall off the horse, is getting back up on the horse again. Well, what's next?
The next question says, did you ever have a moment that made you shift your focus from making money to being happy? How did that affect your business?
Well, look, I think I started, the moment for me was a weekend early in January 2022, which was a weekend where I did a launch for a condo project. And we brought in revenues of 800, and I think it was about 832,000 in a weekend. Phenomenal results. In fact, I broke all records of our organization. It was never been done. It still hasn't been hit. And as a guy that's been in sales his whole life, to do that in a weekend took a lot of effort, took a lot of patience, and myself and my team were ecstatic. However, when I came in on the Monday morning after that weekend, the novelty wore off for me. And I've spoke about this on other podcasts and content before, right? Like, I think the people that I feel kind of sorry for the most is like astronauts, right? Because their whole life they want to get to the moon, right? And then they get to the moon, and then like, you better have a different goal set up for yourself, because like, what the fuck are you going to do after you got to the moon? And so for me, hitting that number was like me going on to the moon in the field of sales. And I realized that I wasn't happy. And that was then the birth of a new business, which was the coaching academy, which up until now, like from that time to now, has given me way more than $832,000 in terms of revenue of dollars. But more importantly, it's made me more happy. On a day-to-day, I get to coach clients one-on-one. They come into programs. I like this new challenge of now not, I knew I could always sell stuff, but now it's helping other people do it. That brings me internal happiness, which in a funny way makes me more money. Because see, it's not work to me. I'm putting in hours upon hours a day, trying to get to brokerages, do talks for brokerages, get on stage, do content. We have challenges with our content sometimes, just like everyone else and everything else. There's going to be challenges and obstacles, but I love putting in the extra time to try to figure it out. And it doesn't feel like work. And because I'm able to put in the extra hours, I'm bringing more value to the marketplace. And he or she who brings more value to the marketplace will always have a higher income, and that's kind of what I'm living in now. What's next, Bo?
The next question says, you were one of the early adopters of content creation in the real estate industry, and you preached about the importance of using AI to improve business. What's the next thing that you're currently focusing on and might tell other people that they need to shift their focus towards?
Look, I'm not sure if there's like the next thing that I'm focusing on. There's probably something that I'm considering, and I'll talk about that in a second. But I want to make sure that the person who asked this question, and I think it will bring value to everyone else. Sometimes you don't need to think about the next thing that's coming. I know you kind of want to be on the forefront of it. I mean, first mover's advantage is real. Like for me to be podcasting and having a videographer kind of following me around in a real estate office was weird when I did it. It almost made me look like narcissistic, maybe. People are like, who the hell does this guy think he is? And now so many people do it. And so because I was one of the first to do it, really in our country, I would like to think. I was able to learn quicker and adapt and adjust along the way, but I got a lot of awareness that people weren't getting because they weren't doing it. But when I'm saying that you don't need to know the next thing, the reason I say that is because focus on what's still here and working really, really well. And what is that? Well, are you on TikTok? Are you on LinkedIn? Are you on Facebook? Are you on Instagram? Are you producing content where people can get a chance or an opportunity to get to know you? And that's a shot. That's a knock at the agents and the salespeople and the business owners and the entrepreneurs who are just putting up a bunch of images because they're afraid and they're fearful about speaking to the camera, because that still works. So you don't need to worry about the next thing. Now, in terms of what I'm spending, I'm going to say like 5% of my time right now on, AI to the person who asked the question. It's a lot more than 5%. I use AI in a lot of different ways, primarily to get me started. And what I mean by that is, before I tell you this new thing that I'm looking at, is there's a thing called writer's block. It's hard to look at a blank page. What AI has helped me do is get me started, kind of get me to first base, and then I can kind of come home myself. Sometimes it's just getting started. So AI is fantastic with that. Google Gemini, ChatGPT, all the stuff that we can do now with cutting content, like a lot of stuff. Spend some time there. Spend more time there. What I'm spending a little bit of time is live shopping. Live shopping from the perspective of going live, okay, building a community on TikTok Live. There's a new app that I've spent maybe less than 5% on yet, so I'm not going to speak about it too much, but I know a lot more people are on it. It's called Whatnot, where you do live streaming. It's kind of social media and the home shopping network combined, where you build a community on social media on one of those platforms and you're able to sell stuff. It might be merch. It might be like mugs. It might be where I'm trying to see if there's a place for it. Is there a place for like real estate to be sold some way, somehow? I'm not sure yet, right? And so I like giving myself 5% into these things. That's exactly what I did with podcasting, which then led to all my content. And so if there's something that you want to maybe give a little bit of time, look into this live shopping stuff. However, don't forget the basics. Don't forget the fundamentals, Bo.
Okay, the next question says, I've been door knocking in my area that has around 1,700 houses and using your scripts and strategies of inviting people to my events and getting their permission to stay in touch in the future. How would this correspond with your coaching program?
Well, look, our coaching program is all about really one thing. That one thing being, for real estate agents and mortgage brokers specifically, is knowing that you want to sell more. The one thing being is booking more appointments. Make no mistake about it. Right now, the average person, or really anybody, they don't go online to actually transact. Right? They might start their process. Somebody who's buying, selling, or investing, start their process online. Completely understandable. That's why you want to do content. But they're not actually making the transaction happen. And companies, for the last decade, I've been doing this for 20 years, for the last decade, have spent hundreds of millions of dollars. Okay? And I'm sure there's a company out there that's already spent $1 billion on trying to get people to transact online a property. Hasn't happened really yet, okay? Why is that important? Well, knowing that, as a real estate agent or a mortgage broker, you know that they're going to still at some point use you for the service. And so to get that transaction, to be in the middle of the transaction, to make the sale, to close the deal, it's a really good idea that you focus on having more appointments. And so our coaching program, that's what it focuses on. So as this person who asked the question is door knocking, if you're cold calling, you're doing events, whatever the heck it is that you're doing, the job is to you start with the process of cold calling or door knocking, but then you need to get an appointment. You got to have the meeting of the minds. You got to do that consultation. You gotta get them to the next step. So great place to start is the door knocking, the cold calling, doing events, content creation, all the stuff you've heard me speak about over and over and over again. Making sure that your CRM is taken care of. But it's all for one reason, to get the prospect to the next step in the process, which is an appointment, which will inevitably, if you have a lot of appointments, inevitably you will do more deals. Guys, I've been watching and tracking my own numbers for my own company. We do a little over 750 transactions every year, REC Canada, my real estate company. Okay, 750 transactions. We take a little over 3,000 appointments, 3,000, 4,000 appointments. And those are not numbers that I'm just throwing out there. But through my coaching company, I'm watching how many appointments need to be done. But the guys and gals in my coaching academy that are getting appointments, and this is not a pitch or some way for you to join the coaching program. I could care less. It's why I give away so much of the content for free. So you can do this on your own. You don't got to pay me. You don't got to pay anyone. But make no mistake about it. The people who get more appointments, they inevitably do more deals. That's it. Period. Next.
Okay, this last question that we have. What's your biggest takeaway from coaching hundreds of agents since you launched the academy?
By far, number one is the fear that they have of making phone calls. They have fears of other things as well. It's the fear of making a phone call, which is interesting because you're a real estate agent, a mortgage broker, a salesperson, and if you're afraid to make phone calls, this is the wrong business for you. I know why you might have got into it, because someone said to you, like, you're so good with people, Bo. You should get your real estate license. And we all as humans want positive reinforcement, and we need a push. Or you saw $1 million listing, and you're like, holy shit, these guys sold a house, and they made $67,000, and they did it in 22 minutes. Well, you didn't see any of the work that had to go into it. Big shout out to all the guys on $1 million listing, New York, LA, whatever there is now. I sat down with them and did podcasts. I know how much time and effort they put into prospecting. Because without lead generation and business development done consistently, there's no way of making it in this business. You're waiting to be lucky. And waiting to be lucky is a very bad strategy in business. I don't know in other parts of your life, sure. In business, it is always a bad strategy to be reactive, to wait. Because there is a reason there's 1%ers. Those guys and those gals, they're proactive every day. Every day. Guys, I'm telling you, all I do all day long now, if I'm not sitting with my team members and coaching them through something, every other minute is spent on prospecting. I'm not even exaggerating. Like, if I'm not sitting down and having a conversation with Bo about a piece of my content, I go right to prospecting. It's why I always have sticks in the fire. It's why my funnel is always filled. Case in point, right now, at the time of this recording, my team has been asking me to do some more different content that they can record, i.e. me on stage, me doing a workshop or training. In the background, I've been spending 3 to 4 hours a day at 10 in the evening till 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, prospecting for me to get to brokerages. I've heard tons of not yets. Some no's, some let me sees. But every day, a lot of sticks in the fire, and now it's starting to turn. People are reaching back out. Hey, Jazz, let's get that booked. Right? So when you're not working a file, showing properties, getting the financing, shooting some content, to me, which is also prospecting, You have to be generating leads. And so one way of being proactive with that is picking up the damn phone and calling people and connecting. I'm not saying calling and saying, hey, do you want to buy our house? And maybe that's why the answer to the question that I was just posed is the number one thing that I've noticed is the fear of making calls. Because I think people think that they have to call people and say, do you want to buy or sell? When I just know that that's not true. You have to find creative ways to get in touch with people. It's why I started doing so. It's why I started coaching people on doing events, because it's an easier phone call. Hey, Bo, do you want to come to the event? But you got to fucking call people. Yeah, you can send Bo an email, but he gets 1,000 emails every week. It's why open rates for emails are only 20%, and you're a rock star at 20%. But that leaves 80% of people that didn't even open it, let alone register. So how do you do that? You make calls. But that fear is by far the number one thing that I've noticed with the Coaching Academy. I heard you say that was the last question. As always, I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Make sure, if you want to get your question answered, all you got to do is go to meetjastakhar.com/podcast. meetjastakhar.com/podcast. Submit your question, and I will do my best to answer it. Until then, have the best week ever.